大丈夫かな？是。
大丈夫かな？
OK。じゃあ、せーの。Hello everyone, it's Katspace here. Today I have my friend Quinn with me.
Hello.
We are having tea, okay, and cake. So I thought I want to do like eating and talking interview. Okay, so Quinn, where are you from?
Oh my god. I'm from America.
Okay.
I was born in California. And then I was raised in Las Vegas.
How long have you been in Japan?
I think I came as soon as foreigners were allowed to come in.
Yeah, we actually...
After COVID, right? We came at the same time.
Yeah, which until now is around 2.5 years?
Yeah, it was April 2022.
So me and Quinn actually met in the same language school. First came, you went to a language school, right? It's not because you are working here or what?
Yeah.
Okay, as a student. So what makes you come to Japan? And why you come to Japan?
What made me come to Japan? So, I graduated college in 2019, and then I had this thing, like, I had 3 months off before I was going to start working. I was supposed to start working in like March or April or something.
Okay.
So I had 3 months to do whatever I wanted with my life, and I didn't want to travel. So I had this thing where I was like, I'm going to try every hobby in the world. And in particular, I wanted to try a bunch of hobbies that, like, things that I'm sort of bad at or things that I thought I didn't like. I wanted to try them all one more time.
Whoa.
And then one of these hobbies that I started was language learning, because I took 3 years of Spanish in high school, but I failed the third one. So I was not a good language learner in high school.
So you thought you were bad at learning language?
I don't know if I thought I was bad, but I did not have a good experience.
Okay,
right?
so you wanted to give it a try?
Yeah, but then COVID started happening. Right, so around March, April, around the same time that I actually started work, COVID happened. So I had to drop most of these hobbies. So the only things that were really left were Japanese and drawing. The drawing didn't stick, so it was just Japanese. So I kept on studying Japanese, and I became like obsessed with it because it's COVID and there's nothing else to do. Before COVID, it was like 30 minutes a day. And then during COVID, it became like 3, 4, 5, 8 hours a day just on Japanese.
Okay.
Anyway, so I studied Japanese a lot. I ended up liking it a lot. Like, I liked all of the parts of the hobby. I liked like the grammar and the vocab and like the language parts, but I also like the part where you can like talk to people, where you can start watching new stuff, where you can like read books, you know, like where you start actually using the language.
Yeah. Because when you learn a language, it's not only language, but it leads you to other stuff.
That's what I like about the hobby, because I get bored of things easily, but you don't have to be like studying in the stereotypical way in order to study a language. You can just use it to do whatever. I really liked it, and I really didn't like work.
Who like work?
And like, I was able to save a lot of money because during COVID, I was working at home, like at my parents' house. So I saved a lot of money, and I was like, why don't I just quit work and try moving to Japan? Because I like spent all of this time and energy and money learning this language, and I want a break, and I can afford a break.
Quinn shared with me how he learned Japanese. I was kind of amazed. What I remember, you said you basically hire a lot of one-to-one teacher, and you just keep on practicing conversation.
I want to say that was after like a year of studying on my own though.
Oh, okay. So before that, the first year, do you remember how do you study on your own?
I did a lot of things, so it's kind of hard to explain. But during the first 3 months, I think I just Googled what apps people use to study Japanese. And I was literally just looking for apps. So I think I ended up choosing this thing called Pimsleur, which now is an app, but it used to be just a set of CDs. And it just it tells you the Japanese that corresponds to whatever English, and then it just makes you repeat it over and over. So it's like a 30-minute CD you listen to every day. You just follow along with the CD. And that's what I was doing until COVID started. So
something like shadowing?
Kind of like that. Except it's kind of like flashcards, but audio. It'd be like, oh, how do you say nice to meet you in Japanese? And then it would give you like 5 seconds. Yeah, exactly. It would give you like 5 seconds to say it on your own, and then if you didn't remember, then it would tell you. So it's good because the whole program is like spaced out so that it helps you remember things. And it was good for making me feel like I got started learning a new language. And then I think after that, I can't remember exactly, but I think I just searched on the internet for how you should learn Japanese.
Do you learn it in the sense of like you breaking down like kanji, grammar, or listening?
So when I started, I think I just like tried everything. So it was like I like bought a textbook and looked through it, or I did that app, or I looked up resources online. So what I ended up settling on was like WaniKani, which is an app for kanji, right? And what I ultimately found is that people tend to struggle the most with listening and kanji at the beginning. So it's like, it's just too fast. So you can't listen fast enough, right? And also like people just don't tend to practice listening a lot in classrooms anyway.
Really? I thought people struggle grammar a lot, especially for like English speaker and Chinese speaker.
I think that's what I found at the time. I don't remember the reasoning. So maybe it's the case that people do struggle with grammar.
So I think basically you just find any way that you can help to improve your Japanese, and if you have any question, you just search it up, kind of. Okay.
So it was just kind of random, but I would try to find things that were a little more structured, like those apps or something that you can like follow every day. Right? So I eventually found like whatever Anki flashcards, WaniKani. I did all of this stuff for like a year, and in WaniKani it tells you like how many kanji you've learned. So I waited until I had like, I think I had like somewhere between N3 and N2. Amount of kanji done, and then I started trying to read. I think I hired one teacher, just one at the time, online, and at first I was having her do like grammar lessons with me, but I just didn't like it. Like I couldn't remember anything that she was teaching me and stuff.
Okay.
Eventually I decided that I was going to try to read my first book, but I didn't have the motivation to do it by myself, so I just asked her if we could do it for our lessons.
Is it like she read one sentence and then you repeat?
Yeah, I would send her a screenshot and I would try to read it. And then if there's anything I couldn't read, or if there's anything I didn't understand, I would ask a question.
So you guys go through the reading very slow then? Because definitely there's a lot of stuff you don't understand.
So the book was Kimi no Nawa, like the one for that movie.
You already know this? You already know the story?
Yeah, so like it helps because you already know the story. But still like reading is really hard. So it took like 3 months, of lessons to get through the one book. But after I finally finished that, that's when I decided that I was finally ready to focus on my speaking. So I was like, I just felt accomplished enough, I guess. Like I had already finished reading a book.
So at that point you want to really improve on your speaking, so you started to find teacher to talk to. You think that's the way to help you to do your output, right?
Also, I just like talking. So it's like, I knew I could do it without getting tired. I found other types of studying like really tiring, but I didn't find talking to people that tiring.
And towards the later part of your like speaking learning, I think you told me you find like 3-4 different teachers every day, is it?
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. So, and you told me the reason you find different teachers is because you can actually learn different speaking way from different teachers?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I came up with that reason after or if I thought of it before I started. But I was using this website called italki to just talk to teachers. But I think the first conversation's always the easiest because you practice it the most, right? So like you know how to talk about like your hobbies, you know how to introduce yourself, blah, blah, blah. So maybe part of it was like having a lesson with a teacher for the first time actually feels a little bit easier. Also, like I just like talking to a lot of different people. And as a language learner, I also found that I'm sure in every language, our word usage changes a lot based on our personality, but more than English, like in Japanese, the words that men and women use are pretty different. Or like the words that you might use if you're talking to someone much older than you are different than the ones you use if you're... So then I just didn't want my speaking to become too biased in any certain direction, and I really like talking to a lot of people. And I had the money to do it, so I just decided to spend enough money to like talk for 4 to 6 hours a day.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It
was crazy. But I talked for like 4 to 6 hours a day for 3 months. And by the end of that 3 months, first I was tired. But second, I think I finally felt like speaking was not the main issue anymore. It was my vocabulary or it was grammar or something else, you know? So I was willing to go back to other parts of my Japanese and fix them.
When you come to Japan and study Japanese in a language school, do you notice any other language learner problems or like...
I mean, I noticed that even though I hadn't lived in Japan before, I was definitely probably one of the people that had the most exposure to Japanese people because I spent so much money and time talking to them online. But that one is only Japanese teacher? It's only Japanese teachers, but I realized that a lot of them had only had exposure to like their one professor.
Oh yeah,
you know? Like literally, like
yeah.
And even now, like for a lot of our friends in language school, they don't have any Japanese friends.
Yeah. So which means you think if a Japanese learner they are exposed to Japanese culture or people is limited, it's kind of affect their Japanese learning too, right?
I mean, yeah, naturally.
Yeah,
right?
So.
Because like in a classroom, you're kind of trying to cover everything at once, and that's impossible, right? So it's like you're covering every possible situation. But one of the other side effects of that is people use like the wrong Japanese at the wrong time. Sometimes people use language that's overly formal, or like men might accidentally say things that women would normally say. It's because you learn it out of context, and it's too much to try to just remember, right? Like even if the teacher teaches you this rule, it's learn this word, except mostly girls say it, and also it's kind of informal, and also only people below 40 use it.
Especially Japanese, very much depends on the context. Because especially they also have the honorific form.
Yeah, they have honorifics.
And it depends on your relationship between, like how close you are with the Japanese.
Yeah.
The context is just so many.
Yeah,
it could be so variety.
So many pieces, and if you talk to native speakers, then you naturally pick up a lot of those pieces. Not all of them. Learning those in a classroom is just too hard. And then also, like talking to a native speaker is really different because you know that what they're saying is at least one right answer, which is much easier to learn from.
Yeah. And also, I think in the classroom, you speak Japanese with your classmates. Even you make a mistake, everybody understands because we speak from a foreigner
like
translate to Japanese, so everyone understands.
Especially if you're learning from the same material, you're likely to make the same mistakes because you learned it from the same place.
Yeah, I agree. You say you have to dive into Japanese culture, which I think you did a lot of work in here. In this part, can you share about like? It's really easy to say, you have to talk to native Japanese, but it's really hard.
Well, when I first came to Tokyo, those people that I had teaching me online on Italki, those became like my first friends. And I did some like language exchange apps too. But like, since I was taking so many lessons, like I would see some of them 3, 4, 5 times a week, you actually become friends with these people.
Yeah.
Right? So that was a start. And it felt good to like have friends. Oh, and then I forgot to mention, I also used to teach English online. And then some of those students were Japanese and they also stayed friends with me after I came here. So I had like this base.
Okay.
And then I also chose to live in a share house. And it was borderless house, which maintains like a 50-50 ratio between Japanese people and foreigners. And I also stayed at a homestay. So I've been living with Japanese people the entire time I've been in Japan. So I think especially when I first got here and I didn't have like the cultural awareness to make Japanese friends more naturally, I would put myself in the environment necessary to just naturally make connections with Japanese people. And those Japanese people are probably people who are like more proactively interested in talking to foreigners. So you don't have to worry as much about being culturally accurate.
So you have to put yourself in the correct environment.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely takes time to find the environment that suits yourself.
You have to make it easier for yourself. Because if you just put yourself in the middle of nowhere in Tokyo and you're like, I'm going to make friends. I feel like a lot of foreigners forget that they're not even that good at making friends in their own country. You know what I mean? Like,
whoa, roasted.
I don't mean it in a mean way, but if you think about how many close friends you have,
but you
how
made
long
a point,
it takes to make those friends. Like it's like, after like elementary school, middle school, high school, and college, you have like 10 people left or whatever.
That's true.
Like how are you supposed to like move to a new country where you can't even really talk to everyone?
Okay.
And then suddenly become friendly with everyone, right?
So if you're a little bit introvert, maybe you can try from like language exchange app. I think that's a very good start.
I think also messaging is easier.
Yeah, because you don't put yourself in a very cultural awkward situation where you're Japanese.
Yeah, or hanging out with multiple Japanese people at one time is really good for your Japanese, but it's really like stressful and socially challenging, I think.
Okay.
Because if it's one-on-one, then you can kind of adjust to each other more. But when it's like you plus 3 Japanese people, if you're not used to the way communication works here, you can feel very like off.
But then I think your teacher or the first few Japanese you met through the apps, I would say that at some point they can speak English, right? I also met some case like, I met Japanese. I wanted to speak Japanese, but maybe at the beginning stage my Japanese is bad, and then maybe they try to speak English to me too, and then sometimes the conversation just became like English conversation or...
So my language exchange friends, that was the case. Like when I first started talking to them, I could barely understand when someone else introduces themselves. And they had some amount of English. But for the teachers, at first they were getting paid to teach me Japanese. Right, so they were more used to talking to me in Japanese just because that's how our relationship started. And then my Japanese got better than what most of their English was pretty fast.
Did you try to, I'm gonna speak Japanese?
No. When I first got to Japan, I was already good enough that Japanese was the natural choice in most situations. But if their English is better than my Japanese, I wouldn't stop them. To me, like the relationship comes first. Hopefully it's not just a friendship that's only for the purpose of language. Like that's one benefit, but I didn't want it to be the whole point.
And also at some point, like you started to read because you want to improve more on your like kanji. Is it only kanji or just general input?
Oh, so we didn't talk about this other part. So I focused on speaking for 3 months, right? I started doing this thing where I would just focus on one part of my Japanese for 3 months at a time. So after the speaking, I think it was grammar. So I literally just like, there's a website called Boompro, and it's just a grammar website with flashcards. And I tried to go through all of the grammar from N3 to N1 in 3 months. And it didn't stick. But I just looked at it all in 3 months. And then I like watched some YouTube videos on grammar, and I just told myself like, I'm only gonna worry about fixing my grammar during my speaking lessons, and I'm not going to worry about vocab or anything else.
But at least you got some input.
Yeah, and it was like grammar was the focus. Everything else takes a backseat for 3 months. And then after that, I did my pronunciation for 3 months, and that's still...
When you do the grammar, do you make sure you understand how to use it?
Not all of them.
You just read through, go through a little bit.
Yeah, if something's too hard, I would normally just let it be too hard and move on. Because there's so much material, right? Like you have like 500 grammar points in front of you. If there are literally 100 you don't understand, it's still okay. You know?
So you just really go through? Because I think a lot of people when they do grammar, even for me, I kind of make sure I know when to use it.
I think
at such a level.
I saw that as like a slow process though. Like I would just want to know that the grammar exists. And then like you eventually gain this intuition about when to use it.
But you don't force yourself to, I have to memorize this. I
didn't force myself to get it immediately. After that, I decided to try to fix the pitch accent thing. So there's like the intonation thing that everyone talks about, and I was always aware of it. And since I did music also, I felt like it would be easy to fix if I just took the time. So I finally decided to take the time. And for 3 months, I like went back through all of the vocabulary.
I feel like this is so hard because once you get used to
saying things a certain way. But I was actually lucky that I wasn't living in Japan yet at the time. Because that way, I think if you are living in Japan, you can't just like stop all the other parts of your Japanese for pitch accent. Because there's no way pitch accent is the most important thing going on in your life.
That's the least important.
But like this is before I came to Japan. So I had time to like just pause everything. Like no more bad habits, no more anything. I'm just going to learn how to fix my goddamn pitch accent.
You told me like you read everything which all the intonation. That's really hard work. Do you still have like speaking lesson with the teacher during the time?
No. I think I tried to learn it on my own first. So I didn't ask her to start correcting me until I stabilized myself, because at first it was just too much to remember. Because every single word has its own accent, right? So it's like, even if she corrects me, to be honest, it's basically all wrong. So it's like, I can fix one word, but it's like, you have to work on it on your own. There's just too much to fix. I think after pitch accent, I moved to Japan. And then I started going to language school. And at first, since we were going to language school, I stopped really studying Japanese on my own time. And then it was kanji. So after going to language school for a little bit, my Japanese was finally good enough that I felt like I could go back to kanji one more time. Because of wanikani, I had seen most of them before, but I didn't totally remember like what all of them meant. Or like you have a very like weak understanding of a lot of words, right? So it's like you know the 2 kanji, but that's not enough to completely determine what it means. So anyway, I decided that I would take the kanken, which is like the kanji test that Japanese people take just for whatever qualifications they want. So a lot of kids take it to get into high school or college. So I took the level, it's called Nikyu, but it's the one for high school graduates.
You took it because you want to challenge yourself?
I took it because I wanted to know that I had learned what a high school Japanese person is supposed to know. Because then, if I can't read something, then it's because it's not in that range. And it's not just because like it's something that Japanese people know that I don't. Which is not totally true, because they learn all these hard words in like history class or whatever. But it was good enough to catch me up mostly. I took the kanken, and that's why I started reading, is because you learn so many kanji that you don't use in day-to-day life or speech. So I was like, if I read as much as possible, then hopefully I'll be able to see these kanji actually in use, and I won't forget them. It took like 2 hours a day for like 6 months of studying or something.
Whoa. Yeah. During when you are in
but I used to just do it in language school because our class was boring.
Cat. Thomas said don't watch it.
I mean, he was there. He was watching.
Okay. Like until this point, like how do you still learn Japanese? Like improve your Japanese?
Now, I usually am really specific about what goal I'm trying to accomplish. But when I go back to like really try to learn the language consciously in my spare time, it's normally because I notice some sort of problem in my day-to-day life that's like too big to just handle by memorizing one word at a time. So like pitch accent was like that. It's just like, if I don't give this like specific dedicated time, it's too big. Like there's just too much, you know? Or like, it's like when there's grammar that you don't understand all the time, you can try to learn it as it comes up, but sometimes it's just too much. I don't think even if I lived in Japan for another 5 years, I would learn how to read names naturally. Because I would have to meet so many people and like think about so many celebrities and just all this extra, you know? So I was like, I'm just gonna deal with it.
Yeah, now he's learning, taking effort to learn the Japanese name and the map.
Oh yeah.
And map.
Like in Japanese prefectures and stuff.
How you thought about it and purposely take time to learn a specific thing, that's what impressed me. Like even I realized, I didn't know how to read this place, this name. Like most of us, we just don't aware. But you kind of like, oh wait, I don't know how to read the map, so okay, I'm gonna do this. I think there's most of the learner who didn't thought about too much into breaking down their learning process.
I mean, I like having clarity around what I'm trying to do. Because if it's just like, I want to get better at speaking. It's hard for me to decide what to do about that. So I normally try to find something to focus on. And the other things I found are like fukugo doshi. Fukugo doshi, like compound verbs.
Fukugo doshi.
So for example, like toriageru or like sashikomu or something. Like, I think people find this with phrasal verbs in English too, but they're just harder to memorize for some reason. And their use cases are typically really specific. So recently,
there's a lot of nuances.
I've been trying to tackle those as well. But yeah, these are just like short-term goals. And normally what happens is like, it bothers me for like a whole year and I don't do anything about it. And then I finally start to do something about it. And then I finish like half of what I planned to, but then it feels stable enough and I just give up and, and go back to another time. But that's enough to get better.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and it fixes like the major problem that I was dealing with. Just think about what exactly you're trying to improve. And I think if you think about what exactly you're trying to improve, it starts to become obvious which study methods will work for you and which don't. The one thing I learned when I was searching for ways to learn on the internet is like, there are so many successful Japanese learners out there and they have tried everything. You know, like there are people advocating for like every single thing. Like I've never done shadowing really, but there are some people who like live and die by shadowing, you know? Okay. And I'm like, as long as you find something that works for you and you're improving what you wanted to improve, it's fine.
Okay, next. So they often say America and Japan culture difference is I think it's the biggest. I don't know. I feel like it's the most extreme one. Do you remember like a lot of culture shock when you first came here?
I am still going through culture shock every day. Okay, one of the hardest parts about this conversation is one of the things you learn if you're an American in Japan and people ask you about America is that since Americans are so diverse, we have very different opinions about America. So if you ask me about America and you ask even the other people from our language school class about America, you get very different answers. I also, where I grew up, Vegas, happens to be like very naturally diverse. Well, in like an even enough distribution that people had like friends that had the same like ethnic heritage that they did. So I think my perspective might be different than someone who comes from a place that like is like 90% white people or even even like
Of course, you cannot represent all Americans. Yeah.
I will say that the cultural difference that sticks out to me the most is that Japan has such clear and unified expectations in really specific situations. Like manners, for example, from what I was used to in America, are taught by your household. But what that means is that they might be different from household to household, especially since I'm Vietnamese American, right? I mean, my mom grew up in America. She came when she was 6, but she was still raised by Vietnamese parents. Her ideas of what is polite or impolite are very different from my friends. And what that means is that there's no like unified sense of right or wrong.
Like if you are different than me, and then I was like, ma, it's just how Quinn being taught.
We don't even think that far. We're just used to it. You know what I mean? Like it's just like everyone
individual.
Was just there. So like it's like they're different. So they might not think the same way as you, but they're gonna exist. So you just have to deal with it. You know what I mean? So it's like
a little bit don't understand, but yeah, I try to
so even like the simplest rules, like whether you wear shoes in the house or not. Like you would go to your friend's house and they would wear shoes in their house. And then they come to your house and they can't wear shoes in your house. And it's just like, we're just used to that all being different, at least if your society is diverse enough. So I think something that was really hard for me to adjust to is that there was like one idea of what it meant to be polite.
And usually it's unspoken rule.
Okay, I disagree with the idea that it's unspoken. They speak these rules to kids for like 12 years, over and over and over and over again, and then the rules are unspoken because everyone knows.
You're
you know what I mean?
supposed to understand as a Japanese.
Yeah, like I think a lot of it is educated into you very early, and that's why when you're older.
Yeah, and when like Japanese meet us, we are both adults, so I feel like it's so weird to like child and adult to.
Exactly. I think that happens a lot.
So it's not our fault. It's our fault not being raised in Japan.
No, but to them, and this happens to Americans too, if they come from like two different parts of America or they're not used to each other's cultures, like you don't realize how different everyone's childhood was from yours, especially not if they're from a different country. You know, it's hard to realize that like, like the things that were important in school for you and the things that were important in school for other kids aren't the same. Like Japanese kids often have to clean their school, literally, like during school, right? And I don't know if there are schools in America like that, but mine was not like that, right? So it's just like this shared experience. And things are not the same across 100% of Japan, but they're certainly more standardized than they are in the US, right? Because at the minimum, like at the education level, our education is managed by the state. It's so funny. If you look at I think it's like our National Board of Education or something. If you look at our Department of Education's website, it says, please go to your state's website. Because it's like, you know, because the state cares about it. So what that means is like, I literally don't even know what kids across America are learning in math class. Like, I don't know if it's the same as mine.
So I think that's the good thing that people don't assume then.
Yeah, so that's because you get used to the idea that you can't assume. But in Japan, you kind of can. You know, like there are so many experiences that are so similar that you can. And I think that is one of the biggest cultural differences that changes.
And you should assume based on your experience.
Yeah, it's not an assumption. It's something you're expected to know. Like the reason why people know so many things without saying them is because they know them from their own context. They're like, they can expect them to be shared. To me, that piece is the biggest difference. Like I don't know if I actually think America and Japan are like the two most different countries, but from a diversity perspective, they certainly are. Right? And diversity comes with like a different framework around assumptions.
So do you think as a foreigner living in Japan, do we have any way to adapt or get used to it? Or it's just based on personal experience, like how?
Dude, I don't know. Like it depends on what your standard for getting used to it is.
I feel like for most of the foreigners, they just feel like, like I don't know what to do now. I'm like awkward. What if I say the wrong stuff? Like they try to read the air as good as they can. I think this one is just come from your personal experience, right? You have to really put yourself out there.
And you have to let it take the time that it takes to like, well, first, Japanese people aren't like this from when they're born. You know, like they don't understand all of these rules from birth. They like go through an entire education and they make all of these friends and they go into all these different environments and they learn how to adapt. And even then, not all of them are good at it because we're human and everyone's different.
That's true.
So like,
it's good reminder because even Japanese themselves, some of them, there's also like Japanese who cannot read good.
who aren't good at like reading the room or reading signals.
Okay.
Yeah. So first you have to give yourself like the time that's equivalent to their childhood where you're like learning.
Oh,
and then even then, to be honest, like it's not everyone's thing, right? So it just depends on the person. I've met some foreigners who like feel more at home in Japan than they feel in America. Especially recently. In America, we've been calling people pleasers. Right? It's like, oh, you're worried too much about what people think.
Okay.
But a lot of things that people pleasers do.
It is a bad.
Yeah, it's used negatively in America. But a lot of things that what we in America call people pleasers do are things that are considered respectful in Japan.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I get it.
for some personalities, Japan might fit better. Like it's
definitely.
possible. But it just depends on who you are.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it takes a lot of effort because like you said earlier, we're adults, so people don't expect us to be learning, even though they know we're not Japanese. It's just like, feels like a bunch of things adults are supposed to know.
Yeah.
And then I also think the other thing is like Asian, or at least our faces are Asian. So I think we have a really different experience than people who look European. Because people treat them differently like right from the beginning. So even if you know all the rules, you have to like do things a little bit in a different way.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm just being treated very normally.
I think
because
so too.
I'm like Asian face. Naruhodo.
I don't think I get the same reactions to my Japanese that frankly like a white person would get if they spoke the same level of Japanese.
Yeah. So anyway, so this video, the first half, we're going to do in English. And the second half, we gonna do in Japanese, because the second half I think we're gonna talk about on like Japanese society, like maybe problem. So anyway, if you want to watch the second half, click here. じゃあ始めましょう